to steal life. It is an anti-life program. It's moving from carbon-based life to silicon-based life to a digital twin of the world that they can control, that is disconnected from spirit and.
I'm envisioning a world full of love and peace. Thus my decision is to walk with his peace. Through tones, melodies, poems, and beats. But when the time comes, shoot it out in the middle of the streets. In the bright glow of the dawn, I see myself clearly, bringing in a new day. The old way of doing things is done. I don't care what you say. Monsters don't sleep under your bed. They sleep inside your head. And if you haven't done the shadow work, and left behind is where you stay. I'm envisioning a world full of love and peace. Thus my decision is to roll with this beast. Through tones, melodies, poems, and beats. But when the time comes, shoot it out in the middle of the street. We got pretend plus homeschool. Our babies is a must. They not just no moms, but also no pops. Spola, worshiping pedophiles, wanna feed out children's spirits to robots. Turn all of us from carbon-based to silicone-based. Should be where the shit show stops. Get back to doing for ourselves. Water system irrigation and grow crops. I'm envisioning a world full of love and peace. Thus my decision is to walk with this beast. Through tones, melodies, poems, and beats. But when the time comes, shoot it out in the middle of the streets. I'm saying I'm not some master teacher. No, am I some pastor or preacher? Was released from prison with this passion to speak up. After doing 25 years in the beast cuffs. Realize they tried to teach us spiritual, mental, physical diet. They tried to feed us the fire of our ancestors resides in each of us. With that, I'm inspired to turn this heat up. I'm envisioning a world full of love and peace. Thus my decision is to war with this beast. Through tones, melodies, poems, and beats. But when the time comes, shoot it out in the middle of the streets.
We're really approaching almost like it's a Frankenstein moment. And they're framing it to us as, innovation, right? Where we should all be so excited that this is happening. And, I equate it to like the golem, bringing in like these robots. They would like to feed our life force to learn us in every tiny detail, not to empower us, but to actually transform us into a robotic simulation that is under their full control.
Jah, Snoop, what's up, baby? Rick.
I do it dance for Chi-Town. Who am I but Chi-Town? You young fool, I'm too fly to just slide down. Blue sky but high ground. My crown slash helmet. It's for my aircraft stealth fit. Can't be tied down or even seat belted. I look down, I see green like a Celtic. My heat pulverizes, the cheese is melted. The remnants of cash money, I dispelled it. You did the fusions in my eyes, I beheld it. The finger fucked, it caused my hand, I dealt it. Felt it vibrate from the gut of my pelvic. It bust off on some ice, some velvet shit. So radiant, I keep a dark room well lit. Cause you little goofies are well quick. Body for real monkey velvet. Body you not for Mars, is a female split. As a kid, all I did was fight. I did the bit with a knife. I know I can spit my flows to shit. To a fly, though haters wanna crucify a real man. I still stand with the silver hand, but with a healer man. It's not Cypress Hill, I'm Tuttle Sheep. I'm one tough cookie, I don't follow our set standards. To catch me, you gon' have to do more than scamper. Need more than scanners, I'm off the radar. I am as your goofies play God. Some worship the Christ, others pray to Allah. Chase a high, drink paper or bra. You stagnated, well I straight evolve. At a rate, I'm dated space AC, y'all. Buster stuck in the cage, face off. After the shape, the state, use a fake, a fraud. Battle started, you can like this, my mindset. Perfect, cause practice, so I run best. I excel like I'm climbing the step. You got a lot to learn. I am adept, you of no concern. I am a threat. My measurement, width, lift, height, and depth. I'm just piloting up. Flying a jet, straight to adversary. Martial Chronicles like Ray Bradbury. Thorough guy, goddammit. Sebastian Capero, I'm a fly bandit. Mohawk, aviators, aerodynamics. And it's like I'm an arrow in precise transit. A Christmas Carol lies what your fans get. The rules and pearls what I transmit. As a transcript, or I just spit it off the top. It's either shit or get off the clock. This shit's hot.
Wants to get his own crew. Everybody wants to get his own crew rich. And then they want the other little people never get a piece of pie. And no one goes for traffic. And go for you niggas that think that y'all big too. I understand this. That's why you niggas can't understand me. You niggas just know that I know you can't do nothing if you're broke. Listen to me, young people and old people too. Mostly black people, I'm talking to you.
I'm looking at my feet, bro.
Sure. Y'all really thought that I was done with y'all. Nah. I'm really down on y'all. Fellas up. We're not going back and forth about this or that. Whether your word is bond or whack. Here's a big fact. Yellow, white, red, brown, black. Bow, Mao, Big Mac. Whether earth is brown or flat. We want our shit back. Enough with the chit chat. I see through the side ops. Looking past the shine spot. Third eye gang cyclops. I don't eat pork, but I will fry cops. For foes, my heart's cold as an icebox. I'm saying that ops. From the skybox.
Where my Jesus? My native, my Jesus.
The street with some rules.
These are my 40 days and 40 nights walking in the snot.
Warrior spirits inside me. That's where it's real from. The world's a stage, page after page, script is played out. They keep us engaged, placate or rage. This is played out. Rules of a dying society should have been disobeyed out. Forehead and knees on the floor should have been prayed out. The draft is on, COVID's no issue. Could have loaded in tissue. Now
Almost saved.
Who blows the whistle to who holds the pistols. The debacle's about who owes who the fiscal. Disregard the original issue. We not going back and forth about this or that. Whether your word is bound or wet. Here's a big fact. Yellow, white, red, brown, black. Bow, Big Mac. Whether earth is brown or flat. We want our shit back. A fool is known by his speed. Yet if I don't speak, I suffer defeat. I'm other than we, a sucker or me. Stand on 2 feet, one turn the other cheek. The wise man known by his silence, mostly disguised compliance. Silence by guidance, from conspiring to nervous. Other aspirants of violence, tyrants of fire. Strikers and giants who hide, I'm sure and defiant.
El gato es loco en el que pasa.
Big in my ear, they've got indictments. These pedophiles, queers, groupies, and hype.
Get with my shit.
Alignment's the assignment. I'm not the wisest, I'm not
Get
blind.
your ass.
Refinement and confinement, the requirements for this climate.
You want to go
Y'all
outside?
push all the paperwork, or y'all can protest, but they can't escape this work.
By next week, I'm probably going to be about,
Don't duck, no
and
red.
probably a little dark.
Drill music for real. My soul they don't pose as real foolish with no deal. Ain't playing with none of them. It's personal, know what the business is. Big monsters come full circle, so vacate the premises. We're not going back and forth about this or that. Whether your word is bound or whack. Here's a big thing. Yellow, white, red, brown, black. Brown, or big bang. Whether earth is round or flat. We want our shit back. We're not going back and forth
That ain't my
about this or that. Whether your word is bound or whack. Here's a big fact. Yellow, white, red, brown, black. Now out. Big bang. Whether earth is round or flat. We want our shit back.
You don't stop trying to.
Akichiwa.
Mother trucker. Take your ass downstairs.
They on the track.
You're not getting no
Shine
snack.
symbols for the conscious
Oh,
mind,
yeah,
y'all.
back now.
And with that on the temple, draw. I had a vision the past night, yeah, a circulus round.
I gotta put 'em up.
Successful
God,
reality from a virtual now. How? Stand on my square cause they usurp your power. Them same little sneaky breezes that hurt you. They smile all up in your face, all up in your space. And I ain't talking all bras, but dogs with whole trace. So I walk tall kittens while y'all cross slow race. I stay focused on walking through them tall gold gates. Draw badges serve around me to keep me from harm. The law
try and chew on these. Let's see if we can chew on these.
Mortified air, earth, turn me from that peace to
You
a
like to
bomb.
lay on them. Let's see if we can chew on these.
The plane that sent to me. I've accomplished my inner demons. 490-degree
Wonderful.
angles started by age or of shiny
Oh,
thingy.
man, you like to
Angels,
roll
thank
on.
you,
Go
and
ahead,
I
you
force
roll on
out
them.
the
I
cheap
can watch
shot
them.
angle. If I die for
I
I
can't
wait,
watch
but at
them.
least I'm
Oh,
flying
man.
with you. I am my circle, how I govern four corners. Wise as
If you don't
serpent
get your
for
ass
certain
away from my
amongst
shoe, man.
foreigners. Out of state, out of place, in the space,
Let me
stay
tuck my
strong.
shoelace.
Learning firsthand of what fate was forewarned of us. How we call wind blowing out. Spit flow, slow, man, fly in the shell, that shower, half they kept slow. Stay high, years later, he's the same degree, just gained density. Gave my synopsis, he's high.
I'll be in an emergency and go to and won't have no shoelace to tie the damn shoe up with. Fuck your line, man. You got worms,
Squared up,
Ain't no way.
day sky, new God on what the
Ain't
world
no
been
way.
doing for the days now. May I then I don't abide by the same ethics. They fame respect, yeah, obtain the credit for keeping the obelisk erect but restrained. That's this but the epic of my name will reign and remain epic. To prescribe my passions, my squares, my lift. Ask, is it worth the ride? Yeah, it's rare, I spit, but the beach churchified, so I bear my shit. It hurt, I cried, this kid, and then
He can't find the shoelace
my
now.
soul bounced back from it.
He looking at me stand by the door.
Being the sacrificial lamb that jungle.
He done laid across the door like I'm supposed to walk over so he can attack my feet.
Made a conscious shift, even in darkness, the sun lit on you false lights. Don't have to be gold to glitter. Actors of the Parker just for show. Go figure, you get pounded, you bad boy or gorilla. I'm built like a silverback with hill track, no iller max than me. Master built her back, originally pretty. Take the mask off, 360 on my square. See the circle, if not your mask off. You poemish, dash your salt, the dialogue's trash talk, your past lost. Leave my footprints in the asphalt. Use the outline correction, last roll. I blast off, I crash off to the next zest of living. Sacredly, sex whose ass off. When she walked the ass off, I talk back to it like who makes sure Yanni sing. Her
I gave him some catnip.
To Rudy gave me the script.
That's what's wrong with him right now.
This is my vision's description. Listen.
That's crack nip. It's got to be crack nip. He start doing, he want to get all the effects, but then he want to get, you know. And then when I came up, I went outstairs. I set it up and I went outstairs.
Let me impart a fact. She'll be sitting in my ship
looking at
as
my
we
feet,
chart
boy.
the map.
I don't have no socks on, man. I don't want him attacking my feet.
Acknowledge me as the
Tap
circle
my
and the
feet. I'm gonna
square.
flip your ass home here downstairs. He done lost his mind, y'all. He getting no catnip for about 4-5 days, man. Come on up. Come on up.
Now watch time and space rock the great matriarch, whether it's day or dark, creates the spark, weighs the heart as I sun ray my art, her mate, the patriarch.
What's going on? Don't look back at me. Go on, Dick. I'm not coming right now, boy.
Marks once we make
Boy, if you don't get your behind, your palm parts on down the, put your palm parts on down the stairs.
The heart as I sun ray my art, her mate, the patriarch. Most social media saviors are fakes. Marks once we make knowledge raw is when the rhyme and bass drop. I rose up, took a
There you
shower,
go.
purified my arc field, took copper for a wall to ensure my chlorophyll is pumping. Done
This
some
is the
curls
step.
for sure, I've more to build.
Here's his little damn head.
Foundation, my crown, chakra core and hill, pound the pavement. Sacred ground, freedom I stand for. Free all political prisoners of war. Man or woman and child.
Man or woman and child. ToLU'S hit that shit, yo. We're gonna get a little read on y'all. How y'all doing today, man? A lot of things are crazy going on. I wanted to take a nap. I really, because like I said, I woke up at about 1:30, 2 o'clock. I don't know, and I haven't been to sleep since then. Now I'm tired, but like, just want to get a nice restful nap. But I was sitting here and I was just looking at some things. I decided today that I would take time, go over the well, you know, I shared Cure meal, and I was over there chatting, and It was just magnificent. I love to see what the brother's doing. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, we're eternally bonded, all of us, but it's good to see. And then you have the people that come, we're stuck somewhere, and with me, it may seem like it, but I have no hate towards the ignorant. I don't supplement myself with that form of distraction, because that's what it is. And then I saw some chats going on with certain individuals. We're still serving people information, and you're always going to have these individuals who are Americanized, Spanish, Mongolian, whatever, who are going to share false information, and they're young, they're youthful. This is zest for energy, because how can you deny yourself your truth if whatever truth it is you've been nurtured in? And I don't have no, it could be like disdain. I don't have no disdain or hate towards them. That there are many of them who really don't know their truth. It's just a whole lot. The whole earth is filled with people living in incompetence and in utter lies. And they don't know the effect the real enemy has had to make everybody act like an enemy. Everybody knew everybody, y'all. But when it comes to this land, it is well documented. What troubles me at times is when you have these little youths in the native or the so-called Spanish community. Not all of them are like that, because I told you there's a couple million natives who know exactly who you are. They're just not going to be on these platforms debating and arguing with people. There's a lot of Latinos. I don't like saying Latinos. You know what that alludes to. But brothers who speak Spanish, maybe some conquistador, if you want to use that narrative. Conquistador is like a regiment. It has nothing to do with the world that those individuals painted. You know who. I don't want to say who they are. I say enough of their name. Who methodically changed everybody's narrative. And you would think that they would allude to that, but I always make one statement all the time. When they start with that, your culture, or they tell them that their culture is in Africa, I say, wait a minute. The melanated young brothers and sisters from my time and before that is your culture. Even when it comes to Spanish music. Well, not just New Age, just like New Age country. But the whitewashing and the Lucifer, the satanic, I'm not even saying no Lucifer, don't y'all use that word. My name, but has been painted over. Because see, what they realize that the Spanish music that we have over here, which has a lot of African samba and all that kind of stuff in it, and Americanized influence. I don't care from where. I've been to Cuba. I've been to places I know, because the people break it down how the music came to be. Even though they had their own music, but most of it, you'd be surprised, is Moorish. If you think that the Moors, all they did right there was work on Tartary, they had an upkeep of it, or some of them part of it, maybe in certain places, but not. They weren't called Moors when it was being built. That history is fabricated to the utmost. It's just another part, like the diorama of religion and everything else. Some people think when they let go of religion, they a theology that it means that they can now act a fool. That's not. If you are that grafted into those things, it's just like the old world. If you dismiss a part of your truth because it doesn't fit the narrative you're in, then you dismiss your history. I know too many brothers from Mexico, Ecuador. I know ones served women in the military, and those who I met who have showed me their family pictures. And what's wrong with these individuals showing their family pictures? And then you get these other ones who come along, like my brother did, my youngest brother, talking about he took his DNA, he got Egyptian blood. I said, and I was just, you dig DNA, huh? It's not enough that you had hundreds of thousands of people who have shared animals, birds, even worm DNA, and come back with just by their name alone, or sub-Sahara Africa. So and then they would respond to them. Oh, so my worm, my yard, my fishing bait is sub-Saharan African, and then the company wouldn't respond, and they couldn't go and call or anything. Y'all think I'm not caimans, iguanas, one and the same, frog DNA, pets, parrots. I am not kidding y'all. They've had dogs. Oh, you don't even want to go through from California, from one coast to the other. 23andMe. Oh my goodness, they just got showed for the sham they are. And you can really meet or download, or even on TikTok, if you, for those who got TikTok account, even on YouTube, where these people have done this. The problem is these individuals have made millions, and they have subjugated people to more rampant lies. We don't have to go to that fake brother with his glasses. Oh yeah, Oprah, we just made up anything. You know, that's like Neil deGrasse. You know what I mean? The earth is not round, people, but you still have certain pale skins running with the earth is round, and certain people in the indigenous group. I got a telescope and I was looking at the moon and Alpha Beta star system. They're just so, and you cannot show them new information. You know what I mean? It's like I said, it's disturbing. I mean, not where, when you say disturb, it doesn't mean that you're bothered and you implicate yourself in some form of, depressive state. No, it's disturbing to see people or individuals, sentient life form, so conflicted, and yet holding onto a narrative that the sound and belief that they would state is knowing, but it is not knowing from real knowledge. And as I stated, there's much information out there that holds weight to a lie, especially when they talk about the Bering Strait. I'm like, do you know, when you think about Alaska, the fact that nobody's ever been to the north, and there are 4 land masses that aren't even counted on the map, because in the middle of that, there's a great body of ocean with a big black mountain that's magnetic. And there have been from all over, Russia, everywhere. In the time past, this was well known not to go there. Nobody ever did, because they knew they wouldn't return. Yet there have been many voyages that they would acclimate to saying lost in the Pacific or Atlantic, when they went up there on these excursions that were secret black ops or whatever, even up to this date, still building equipment and craft to go there that they've lost. It's almost like they say, well, we're not going to get in there. We have the written history, but we can't go there. So we're going to do what we do here. And I know it's very hard to accept the narrative, because you don't see it on the map. The first thing when you walk in elementary, middle school, all those schools, you see this round globe first thing when you walk in, and you see the teacher's desk, depending on the classroom, the setting, and everything else. Unless you're going into, a place that's, a college, and the desk when you walk in is way down there. So your perception of the seats that you have to pay attention on the platform or the patio that's been at eye level up a little lower than you, depending on the doctorate or whatever it is you might be going in. Professors, college, depending on Yale, Harvard, blah, blah, blah. BCUs, whatever, right? And it's just, it's disturbing. Because when you actually know something, and you see people bickering and fighting, and both sides are wrong based on what the subject is, or both could be quasi right based on the narrative of the subject. It's it's not mind numbing either. You might think that way I've threw myself around on here, right? But no, it's mind stimulating. It's comical, to say the least. And not one of these individuals have been anywhere, nor have they been somewhere where there's really a wealth of history. Written history. I mean, like, when you mentioned, have you been to the Library of Congress, and what year did you go? What country did you go to? What museum did you visit? What did you go and look at? What books did you, in the stores of antiquity that still stand, the few that do, ran by certain families, did you search out? When you went to these sites, did you take it upon yourself to look even further, or did you accept what you were taught? Like I said, school system, all it does is indoctrinate your children. It don't teach them nothing. I don't care what they've done. I mean, there are those who are doing stuff with computers and acting and blah, blah, blah. What about how to live, how to be, how to exist? We say that's up to the parents. Well, the parents are skewed too, because they have a broken narrative. And this is everybody across the board. I was thinking about my daughter, and I was thinking about what my ex-wife did. And I remember her, one of her statements was, you know, you wanted my life. No, I was in your life. I just wasn't there because why don't you hold the people accountable? Me talking, I said, why don't you ask the aunts and all of them? When I was like, well, where's she at? You know, I can't even find the address. All the letters I wrote. And then when you came, you know, I had to point these things out because when you're broken and you're not really broken, this is facsimile of ideology and hypocrisy. And it's lucrative in the world we exist in. And if they don't tap into their inner true selves, then what are they going to, I mean, what's 4 to 6 things that you've done in your life? We always talk about forgiving somebody, right? But did you forgive yourself? Did you make amends with yourself? Did you make amends with your family, even though you weren't wrong? Like say, look, you don't have to be with the slide. Look, I apologize for whatever it is that's staring you. Did you make amends with the people around you? I don't have no hate for the people I grew up with, just because it may sound like there's disdain when I speak about certain things. Who would want to accept ignorance? That would be even arrogant in the narrative of acceptance. It's not the fact that I got to point out them being arrogantly ignorant, just to be, it would be arrogant of me to even sit there on some high pedestal going, you know, you're dumb. Oh, because I stated? Well, there's this quasi thing of, well, there's a reality. And then there's a fact base. And if someone would say, well, reality and fact, well, anybody's reality can be steeped in a lie. So there's a reality of the fact base. It depends on who's moving in the fact base. But who says what's a fact? So sometimes you got to forgive. You got to live. You got to learn and live. And learning and living doesn't mean that everybody's supposed to learn with you. Doesn't mean that it's going to happen at your time or in their time. It may be somebody of their seed or maybe not. You got to think about all the generations that didn't come here because of the destruction of a certain man and a woman, earth over. I'm serious. All these young men dying right now, they will never spare a seed. They will never plant a seed. How about the women? Women locked up, never had a relationship with a man, and vice versa. Those are generations lost. It's not just to snip, snip, snip. You know, I don't want to get into the narrative of what goes on in there. Once coat hanger thing about ignorant people. Pills, the day after, everything. So you have to learn how to forgive the things that rob you of your intelligence. The things that rent space and give energy to the things that are impractical, yet practical in those detrimental ways. Yes, there are things like war is practical as far as what people believe, not knowing the facts, except for those who fight and then realize when they start getting this information, they become respondent instead of despondent. And they say, it was a lie. Everything was a lie. But why is it the other people don't hear it? Who controls the narrative? Do you really control the narrative? So I like to go and rent a little space in people's head. You know, that's me standing next to a Navajo brother during a ceremony of World War II. Not so much code talkers, but all the wars. It was not just the World War II. And it was the people lost and the people who became lost. I've always carried the Arizona flag. They asked me, would you like to carry the American flag or the Arizona state flag? I says, give me the state flag. I'm going to represent this land. My ancestors, they never made qualms about it. I have hundreds of pictures, powwows, me right up there, second to the left, American flag, Arizona, you know, right there, suited and booted, white gloves, Commonwealth belts and everything, press suit. One thing I do not like doing is ironing my BDUs, bro. And the arguing does not, you look at this time, what is the arguing solving? What is it solving? Does it solve anything? Isn't solvent supposed to cleanse or remove an aberration or something that is not required there, or to clean a surface, to prepare it for something good? So if you cannot solve it amongst yourselves, or solve it within yourself eternally, or do the things required to actually not abscond from, but to find out the truth? Are you dismissive, as I was saying earlier? And what are you arguing for? I've actually had natives and melanated people say, man, I don't have the time to argue. I know who I am. See, everybody wants to tell the person who's done the most that they're nothing because they've done the least. Now, that's a fact. I would love to hear, I would enjoy to hear any light skin, any Native American, what you've done. Any so-called Spanish brothers and sisters, what have you done that is paramount not to some drugs and murder and everything else? Now, our people are very good at that. I just want to know, what have you built? It is well known in the places I went to, most of those individuals say, well, it was known that their people had moved in there. So then how can you claim to be indigenous if you dismiss any of your indigenous blood? Yet there are those that say, and they do a percent thing, which is disturbing, but they say, well, I know that I'm 35% indigenous and my ancestors were black. And I always correct them, stop saying the word black. We're different shades of brown. Stop it. Then when I break it down and I give them a little quick history to reacquaint them or to acquaint them with something they didn't know, they go and research it. And then they come back, okay, I'm looking further into this. Because it's still prominent, it's still easy to be dismissive when you were nurtured in a lie. And when I tell them, well, Muhammad Ali was considered a Negro. And when he went to a restaurant, they allowed Africans in there, but not him. What do you think that is? Was he because he's so-called white and black? That's not Muhammad Ali. I would like to hear. And then they sitting there going, well, because they want something behemoth, because they cannot stand the fact of your truth because of what these individuals, these C, G, J, whatever you want to call them, all right, what have done. I'm not saying their name because I'm afraid. I'm just not giving them no damn energy. Not even the process of thought. I'm using it because I know the term. I know the truth. All right. And then there are those they did bring, and you can look at around the world where they've done this. And they established the people who were never meant to be. And they lied to them. And that's when you can do all the things in the dark. Silent weapon, right? Silent weapons for quiet wars. Well, those weapons are being utilized and they're not so quiet because they knew they would be loud. They're not really loud yet. And that's what they want. They want the so-called Negro to start acting a goddamn fool. And that won't be good for nobody. You can believe in a little world and get your little full autos and this, that, and other. I don't think they realize the talents and what they're capable of. That's why the enemy's so busy trying to, take that, take this. Right now, a lot of veterans are starting to realize the prescriptions they're getting, they're not trusting them. They're starting to believe that the government is slowly poisoning them with new pressed pills that aren't what they say they are, that are slow and methodic, that have probably been tested on animals and individuals you've never seen. I mentioned that some time ago, but now the community's growing in this. Even some people that work there. So what's the government going to do with every little monkeys watching? No, they want to push the next agenda. And while people still running around divided, you see how they out there fighting and acting retarded because you got some 21 Jump Street mofos and some beds who are young, creating because they're going to be obedient. I mean, when you got officers in the Army walking around with leashes and chains and with their booties out with chaps and BDUs with dog masks going on, I mean, come on. 3 of them sitting there looking like the most haggard, raggedy ass women, and they men. I'm not being, I'm just saying. You okay, without going too much, I don't want to be dismissive when stuff is really, really there. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get into reading because I don't want to cut it up too much. Marcus William, Lord, whatever Nishi. What's going on, Sidanelv? Agidohi. Hold on, let's see who else? What's this? Mount Meru. Oh, look at that. T. Hines, what's happening, beloved? So I hope some of that, at Grand Ascension, you already know, beloved. I hope some of that made some sense. And you know, I'm not balance. I'm not attempting to make everybody get along. Come along, get along, gang. I'm just saying, come on, let's everybody stop being feeble-minded. You know what I'm saying? It's like the feeble-mindedness is something else, man. Let me go ahead and get into reading because I want to get through this. I'm gonna try and lay down for a little bit. I got it cool in here because it was felt like 100 and something degrees up in here, and I was starting to sweat. I even changed my shirt. That's the black shirt. I was like, man, let me come about this joint. All right. So let's get into Facts of Facts with Benjamin H. Friedman. I'm gonna keep this right here. All right, as y'all know, this is a book. And no, ain't no books come yet. I mean, they still got time. So I'm like, the window's cracked. You can see. So I can hear, and even the bell rings, like I can hear it. When it rings, it's like I can hear it right here, not through the echo of the hallway. I can hear it, like, you know. And so I'll look right out and be like, I'm coming. You know, usually if they hear me, instead they'll walk off and leave it. But hopefully they'll bring something. So let's go ahead and get into this. As you know, himself is a Judean and not as a Jew. We just went over that yesterday. Now we're reading in here. So be mindful. I'm going to use their terms. This is to Dr. Goldstein, Mr. LLD himself. Okay, because it's about he's pushing Christianity. You have choices. All right. Inscribed upon the cross when Jesus was crucified were the Latin words Jesus Nazarenus Rex Ludorum. Pontius Pilate's mother tongue. No one will question the fact that Pontius Pilate was well able to accurately express his own ideas in his own mother tongue. Now, the authorities competent to pass upon the correct translation into English of the Latin Jesus of Nazareth, Rex Ludorum, agree that it is Jesus of Nazarene, ruler of the Judeans. There's many Jesuses on the earth, and there always have been. But which one? Just like there's many of you. Rondo, Ganja's significant to you, bro. So as far as Rondos, Marcuses, Jameses, you know, Susans, and so on. You know what I'm saying? Timoni, everybody's name is millions, if not. Even in other tongues. Excuse me. Okay? The authorities competent to pass upon the correct translation into English of the Latin Jesus of Nazareth Rex Ludorum agree that it is the Jesus of Nazarene, the ruler of the Judeans. There is no disagreement upon that by them. Now, during his lifetime here on earth, Jesus was not regarded by Pontius Pilate, nor by the Judeans among whom he dwelt as king of the Jews. You heard that? During his lifetime here on earth, Jesus was not regarded by Pontius Pilate, nor by the Judeans among whom he dwelt as king of the Jews. It never existed. The inscription on the cross upon which Jesus was crucified had been incorrectly translated into the English language only since the 18th century. I ain't saying nothing. Pontius Pilate was, Rolodex people is there. Pontius Pilate was ironic and sarcastic when he ordered, inscribed upon the cross, the Latin words Jesus Nazarenus Rex Ludorum, about to be crucified. With the approval of Pontius Pilate, Jesus was being mocked by Pontius Pilate. Pontius Pilate was well aware at that time that Jesus had been denounced, defied, and denied by the Judeans, who at last finally brought about his crucifixion as related by history. We see a lot of that going on today, right? Was I just not discussing that? Now you see why led segue like this. Except for his few followers at that time in Judea, all other Judeans abhorred Jesus and detested his teachings and the things for which he stood. And as you know, Judah doesn't exist in Palestine. But you have a Utah. And if you study deep enough, you'll know that it's Judah by way of the cross coming up from south. I'm just saying. I could be wrong. Anyway, was well aware at the time that Jesus had been denounced, blah, 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 crucified and related to by finally brought about his crucifixion, right? Except for his few followers at that time in Judea. All other Judeans abhorred Jesus and detested his teachings and the things for which he stood. The deplorable fact cannot be erased from history by time. Now Pontius Pilate was himself the ruler of the Judeans. At the time, he ordered inscribed upon the cross in Latin words, Yeshua Nazarenus Rex Lurum. In English, Jesus the Nazarene, ruler of the Judeans, but Pontius Pilate never referred to himself as ruler of the Judeans. Pontius Pilate never did that. The ironic and sarcastic references of Pontius Pilate to Jesus as ruler of the Judeans can hardly be accepted as recognition by Pontius Pilate of Jesus as a ruler of the Judeans. That is inconceivable by any interpretation. Why would Jesus even claim that? Wasn't he a nurturer of truth and telling them what they were capable of? That they were ignorant to it because of all they had been through? The falling away from grace? At the time of the crucifixion of Jesus, Pontius Pilate was the administrator of Judea for the Roman Empire. At that time in history, the area of the Rome, now I must say this, where was the largest Colosseum? That was torn down around 1902 or something like that. Larger than the one over there, which was destroyed due to what? War and conflict, right? Now you're starting to pay attention. Anyway, at the time of the crucifixion of Jesus, Pontius Pilate was the administrator of the Judea for the Roman Empire. At that time in history, the area of the Roman Empire included a part of the Middle East. As far as he was concerned, officially or personally, the inhabitants of Judea were Judeans, Middle East, in the original Bible, and in the Puri maps. Where was the old Orient, the East at? Asia Superior, India Minor. Could you imagine sitting on a council of 100 down to a 13, conspiring how to change the narrative and that it would act and take wars? Wasn't it right here? Included as part of the Middle East. As far as was concerned, officially or personally, the inhabitants of Judea were Judeans, to Pontius Pilate, and not so-called Jews, as they have been styled since the 18th century. Now, in the time of Pontius Pilate, and not so-called Jews, okay, as they have been styled since the 18th century, in the time of Pontius Pilate in history, there was no religious, racial, or national group of Judea known as Jews. Nor had there been, up into the 1800s, don't get it twisted, nor had there been any group so identified anywhere else in the world prior to that time. Pontius Pilate expressed little interest as the administrator of the Roman Empire, officially or personally, in the wide variety of forms of religious worship that been practiced in Judea. You got to remember, there was no such thing as religion. It wasn't called that. This is all new made up stuff. It was lifestyle. These forms of religious, and they were said, they came to America, they said, wow, those who have never been here said, wow, these are righteous people. These forms of religious worship extended from phallic worship and other forms of idolatry to the emerging spiritual philosophy of an eternal, omnipotent, and invisible divine deity. An eternal, not outside fools, and other forms of idolatry, an omnipotent and invisible divine deity. The emerging Yahweh or Jehovah concept, which predated Abraham of Bible fame by approximately 2,000 years. As administrator of the Roman Empire in Judea, it was the official policy of Pontius Pilate never to interfere in the spiritual affairs of the local population. Pontius Pilate's primary responsibility was the collection of taxes to be forwarded home to Rome, not the forms of religious worship practiced by the Judeans, which they labeled that. It's not what Judeans didn't call it religion, from whom those taxes were collected. And who's the biggest taxers? who's a destroyer of your narrative. Do you see the importance? As you well know, my dear Dr. Goldstein, the Latin word rex means ruler, leader in English. During the lifetime of Yeshua, or Jesus, or whatever you want to call him in Judea, the Latin word rex meant only that the Judeans familiar with the Latin language, Latin word rex meant only that to Judeans familiar with the Latin language. Now the Latin word rex is the Latin verb rego, regere, rexi, rectus, almost like Negro, right? In English means, as you also well know, to rule, to lead. Latin was, of course, the official language in all the provinces administered by a local administrator, and I spoke to this. That's why when people say Spanish, this, that, and the other, and Portuguese, I'm like, that ain't Latin. Latin was, of course, the official language in all the provinces administered by a local administrator of the Roman Empire. Nor is Greek. This fact accounts for the inscription on the cross in Latin. You know what's funny is that Mr. Zarco, Hernandez Zarco, had his cousins who spoke Latin well when they came here, because they had met us anywhere from 7 to 17 times when we visited so-called Napoli, Italy. All right, remember that. And I told you to study up on certain anime movies and the movies called God Killers. Did any of y'all do that? No, of course not, but I'm sorry. Let's go ahead and get into the Negro Project. It's funny how they had to use the term, because if they told you the truth, because, I mean, James Baldwin said, I am not your Negro. Obviously, when he was growing up, it was a term that was lucid. It wasn't valuable and real. How many identities can you receive? Where the ignoramuses who don't know history can run and say, oh yeah, well, you African American, brand new one. That suits them well in ignorance. The Negro Project, 5 Ds, blah, blah, blah. Margaret Sanger, for so-called Black America. Forwarded by Ron Edwards, Bruce Flannery. Okay, let's get into it. If you want to get the book. Oh. The headache went away when I took that little piece of pill, y'all. That's a shame. So I'm going to see how much longer I can push it. I have to get some more lavender tea. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. So, when we last on here, we were talking about Germany, the racial heritage, this, that, and, you know, those who they would dispose of, going through the thing of Holocaust, where I was giving you more intimate relation with the truth of history, and why it was important for me to bring up certain values and to point out certain Russian soldiers and German soldiers who I conversed with, who said they were treated well endowed. It was when the Pelskins from here, and when Europe, who lost, was enlightened with this new favor because of us getting involved in ignorance and lied to, because it was like a World Trade Center type thing and Liberty Boat. Now you see why I did the USS Liberty. Are you starting to be able to put together what I'm doing? Are you seeing the method to this little tiny madness? Are you paying attention for real? And if those weren't there for that, go back and watch the videos and then come back and come full circle back. All right? And really pay attention. So let's pick it up. During his time behind bars, Hitler read everything he could, World War I after that. He read everything he could get his hands on, and he pored over the text of American eugenics like Harry Laughlin, Lothrop Stoddard, which we read 3 paragraphs ago, Rudolf Hess. That's right. I jumped over it. And Margaret Sanger, from Lothrop Stoddard and Margaret Sanger. Now, during his confinement at Landsberg, he also dictated his autobiography, Mein Kampf, My Struggle. Did any of y'all know that's what it was called? To his faithful secretary, Rudolf Hess, who was also jailed for his part in the botched military takeover of the government in Munich. Hess would later be named Deputy Führer by Hitler until his fateful and inexplicable flight from Germany to England in 1941 at the height of World War II. Now, the American eugenics spoke to Hitler through the pages of their books. and their ideas on this subject reinforced his own. Hitler was especially struck by the Darwinian theme of survival of the fittest that they conveyed, and their nation seemed to confirm his own racist views. Hitler was not a racist. It's a complete lie. This was especially true concerning Europe's Jews. Must we go back and read Facts of Fact to bring clarity? It makes me want to. It really has me wanting to read Arthur Kessler's in the middle of the book to bring things full circle again for those who really don't know. Anyway, this was especially true concerning Europe's Jews, whom he had come to despise as Untermensch. Oh, that's how do I pronounce it again? Untermensch. Untermensch. My German is rusty, y'all, but it's subhuman for those who don't know. An attitude that began to form following his encounters with them during his time as a wandering vagabond in Vienna in the early 1900s, and on whom he would later unleash the full, it's going to say wrath, fury, okay, of his hatred upon becoming Germany's head of state. Hitler wrote at the length of Mein Kampf of his revulsion, at seeing hundreds of Orthodox Jews strolling along the wide thoroughfares of the city, dressed in long black robes and wearing the traditional head covering, the yarmulke. Listen. Of his revulsion at seeing hundreds of Orthodox Jews, do y'all know what the word Orthodox means? Strolling along the wide thoroughfares of the city, dressed in long black robes and wearing the traditional head covering, the yarmulke. And he spared no effort to hide his contempt for them because of what they did to the land, in truth. In his 2000 book on Nazi Germany, The Third Reich, a new history author, Michael Burleigh, provides us with an insight into the future German leaders' attitudes towards the Jews in his passage from Hitler's tome. In a short time, Hitler wrote, I was made more thoughtful than ever by my slowly rising insight into this type of activity carried on by the Jews, Judens, in certain fields where there are any form of filth or profligacy, particularly in cultural life, without at least one Juden involved in it. If you cut even cautiously into such an abscess, you find like a maggot, let me stop that, in a rotten body, often dazzled by the sudden light like a little Jew. My apologies. Now, the pages of Mein Kampf are filled to the brim with such a visceral, a vitriolic brand of hatred for Hitler's chosen people. Chosen for extermination, that is. Hitler blamed the Judens, for all kinds of social and economic ills that befell his later-to-be adopted country of Germany. He was actually born in the town of Brunner am Inn in Austria, and what he would call the Aryan race to him, Now, to him, the Judens controlled everything. The banks, the press, the military, and seemingly everything in between. Remember, there was only 450,000 of them there. Hitler himself is of the same bloodline. They were, after all, the ones who started World War I, or the Great War of 1914 and 18, as it was called at the time, and they were among the November criminals who sold out the German army, in which he had served as a courier, and the German people by stabbing them in the back. Do you not see that now? What is wrong? If you don't remember history, you're doomed to repeat it, right? On November 11th, 1918. Now, what was worse, in his view, it was the Jews who were despoiling the pure racial stock of the superior Nordic peoples. Hitler vowed to revenge himself on them, thus saving the Aryan race from being annihilated and avenging Germany's defeat at the hands of its external enemies and those within who had so cravenly betrayed the fatherland in the Great War. Now, Hitler claimed that by eradicating the Jews, the Judens, he would be doing God's work but this would have to wait until he was released from prison and embarked on a political career. Excuse me. Now, in the meantime, he continued to study eugenics, a field which would play a prominent role in the future of the German state and the world at large. Now, you must remember, he wasn't exterminating or going after no Judens, but he was shutting down their stores, the ones the things that indoctrinated the young, their banks, their monies, their porn. Porn was prolific. World War I and World War II. It was just phenomenally prolific. He shut it all down as he did before that. All right? And what you don't know about is the bombings that there were still Judens running around doing. Like you would later believe to be the Assisi Underground, like you see coming from Italy. You know? I'm just stating a fact. Now go talk to your history teachers in them schools and have them come and talk to me if they want a history level. Listen, I'm just American Indian and German, all right? Exposing the expositions of 1851 and 1915. This is Howdy McCoskey's Rise 2021 from his 2019. The Court of Honors in Charlotte, which they call the Great White City. And I was creating the fake white superiority. And as you know, Rockefeller, all those individuals had their hands in this. Vanderbilts, great oil tycoons, da-da-da-da-da. They had to destroy our world as well. And it would start with what they would call the Civil War, to which was no Civil War. The beautiful thing of knowing your great-great-uncles, right? Very interesting is the cathode. As you know, we're reading about certain buildings or what they may actually be for. When I was talking about that under these so-called fake churches, there was thermal heating and cooling system that was natural. And remember I spoke, it was another book, where I spoke on an organ that could play over 6 million tones. Okay? As you're finding out today, that tones can regrow teeth, bones, heal the enamel, make your eyesight right, heal your internal organs. Yes, frequencies. So very interesting is the cathode, which is a word very close to the word cathedral. A cathode was named by Michael Faraday in the 1830s and comes from the Greek word for descent, which is what the energy is, and is what the energy in one is doing. Perhaps the buildings were really called cathode orals at one time, or perhaps it was in these buildings where Faraday got his inspiration. It is very hard to explain what a cathode is, sort of like a battery, but it does mimic such much of what the cathedrals are in fact doing. Recall the many cathodes use copper as their main actor, and this would explain the need for cathedrals to have copper on their roofs. What is amazing is that this technology has been around us for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and no one has noticed until just recently. Oh, some of us always knew. Another scientific term is the fractal tower, which uses a type of repeated triangle or square over and over to increase the amount of waves the antenna can receive, while lessening its surface area, like a capacitor. Many of the towers on top of cathedrals, castles, or palaces have this fractal appearance, as do all of the world's star forts. That's why I tell you the original minarets were not minarets, and they start putting these little crescent moons and all this shit. So what happened with all of this energy being generated? On one hand, I think the energy is still being generated by the cathedrals. I have traveled around Europe checking great cathedrals I come across. Generally, the level of energy that I notice within many of the cathedrals is staggering. I haven't read this shit, I'm just reading this now to you guys. Okay? All right. In fact, it seems like the large columns that run down either side of the nave are a part of the energy function to move what comes from the domes and towers to ground level. There are passages along either side, and I can at times feel the energy moving down these passageways as if the energy is in fact circling. The pipe organs are not there for show. They were part of the original technology of the cathedral device by adding an extra element of specific musical vibration at very high doses. I think could allow the generated energy to be projected out of the rose windows. Now, Tesla Tower technology is basically what these cathedrals are doing. In fact, hospitals may too have been needed. Just go into the cathedral for a while to be reharmonized, rebalanced, resituated. Now, at times, I still think that energy does go out. But except for those living close by, the energy will be dissipated as nothing outside of the building is collecting it now. A receiver of some type is needed to harness it all. At one time, I believe the places people lived were set up in such a way, brownstones, to harness and use, which Native Americans didn't build, and we did, and use this energy being projected from the cathedrals, for examples. In Nantes, I noticed, in the parentheses, and then remembered in many other European cities I have visited, and that most of the apartments all had iron bars in front of the windows. I grew up looking at they had those as well. I do not think that it was an accident. I think the iron was the conductor for the energy coming through the churches. I think the energy was attracted to the iron, then within each home was another device. In parentheses, it states, might not even have been recognized as a device, but a simple household tool, and that could bring the energy from the iron gates inside, where anything needed to be powered had a source of energy. Remember when I talked about, let me mark this. When I was talking about, I remember saying in my ute, and even in one of our houses, that didn't have a chimney stack going up, but it had this little, like some balls could go in, like there's little curves in the back, and it had this little thing where you could stick something in the ground. Well, you know, Paw, he went ahead and made it a working, how the frick he did it, working chimney. That wasn't my business or place, because I'm a youth. I was always out playing in the sun, if you feel me. And I remember when the houses were getting these, and you can look into this, started getting these big beasts in the basements for heating. Remember, first they used to use coal, and then all of a sudden they started using the oil, and they always had the trucks that would go and come and fill the little thing outside that would go into the furnace, and they go down there and they would fire it up, and then you can adjust it, and the thing, even when it was turned off, there was this burner that stayed lit, and then at any time you could regulate it. Remember, we invented the thermostat. I'm just saying. Research it. I've talked about it everywhere. Okay. Behold, a Pale Horse by Mr. William Cooper. And then we got a few more pages to get through. Actually, I was wrong yesterday when I said I was only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 9 and a half pages to get through. So, you know, that's Mr. William Cooper, who they have murdered. That's the only thing they're good for. All right. I'm talking about they're keeping some secrets or some goofy stuff. But anyway, it's just dumb. So anyway, yesterday we were talking and went over like the fact of, I think we were talking about 180 trillion, 77 billion, 900, I mean, 180 billion, 77 million, 900,000 friggin' dollars when we were looking at by June 18, 1986 for liabilities as far as the note. And I showed you all a $10 bill, that it is not worth $10 in gold, far from it, nor in silver, nor platinum, or any other thing. So let's pick it up. This report concerns those assets' ability to properly reinstate the power and authority of Congress to govern without difference to those to whom it presently owes the national debt and its life. Let me read that again. What does that have to do with all that? What do you think? You've got to come at different angles. First, you got to hijack the government. Then you've got to instill all these things, and they had already destroyed, and Lincoln saw that. This report concerns those assets, ability to properly reinstate the power and authority of Congress to govern without difference to those to whom it presently owes the national debt and its life. On June 18, 1986, at the invitation of attorney Miss Wendy Allison Norton, an ex-recorder who had been forced to resign from her position in the state of Wisconsin according to a subsequent disclosure to me. You got to clean house, right? A hostile takeover. Put all your people in positions to sicken the world. For and on behalf of not less than 40 inches of the Sovereign Charter Trust Group's trusts, including the 7 who own the 9 square miles of gold and silver reserves and the 517,000 acres. Now, the International Equity Trust purchased the La Que Patty Bank Corporation, Inc. Said entity was and is authorized under Section 225.4 at I think the sequence of 12 CFR to act as a bank, or section, to act as a bank, buy and sell securities, underwrite insurance and municipal bonds and commercial paper. Now, you know, in World War II, what was the first thing they started utilizing? Bonds. They had to get rid of all that. This holiday company owned and owns a financial entity named the State Bank of Boyd. Oh no, they were having people buy bonds. That was word this way. Technically, the State Bank of Boyd, Minnesota, was declared closed as a bank by the Federal Reserve System in 1984, on March 31st, 1986. Now, the Minnesota State Supreme Court ruled that the State Bank of Boyd was not in liquidation, nor in bankruptcy, but rather that its assets and liabilities only had been sold to the Bank of Madison, which later, he was another bastard, which later changed its name to the La Que Pearl Bank. Pearl Bank. Note, not to be confused with the La Que Patty Bank, or Parlay, whatever, Bank Corporation, Incorporated. 2 different ones. Now, what did I say? Bonds. What were bonds? What were they worth? Weren't they still worth like gold and silver? I don't know. I forget all that. I know my family had a lot of them, or had some, and they sold them. Highly unconventionally, but not unlawfully, as soon as we purchased the La Que Pearl Bank Corporation, Inc. Ours, it was the recipient of a Sodalitas Trust Group's promissory note, due and payable from memory on August 1st, 1999, in a figure of $2 billion with a minimum yield factor included therein, a 0 coupon note, which provided a then current value of approximately $1,672,000. What? A part of, the acquisition contract whereby the International Equity Trust purchased the holding company and its wholly owned subsidiary, the State Bank of Boyd, was that, under the aforesaid provisions of 12 CFR section 225.4 at sequence, that's what it is, the holding company at once and thereby extended a $1,200,000,000 line of credit to the subsidiary under the strict understanding that said subsidiary was under the direct supervision of its parent entity, the La Que Pearl Bank Corporation, Incorporated, by and through its owners, trustee, the International Equity Trust. The first and foremost directive was that the State Bank of Boyd enjoyed a strictly limited authorization only as the service agent. This stuff is typed in small, y'all. The service agent of its parent, to extend credit only up to an aggregate figure of 87.5%, 7/8 of the credit extended to it by its parent, For example, 1,050,000,000 of the, holy shit, 1,200,000,000. That's some crazy credit, right? Now, the State Bank Board was closed down as a bank. It was not a non-viable corporate entity. It was not defunct. It did not have a banking charter, despite the fact that Attorney Nora confirmed to the Minnesota State Commissioner of Commerce that she took the legal position that it was in our possession, constructively as a matter of law. I took the position that since the purpose of the Sovereign Charter Trust Group's acquisition of the Q Paul Bank Corporation was primarily to outwit and outmaneuver the private owners of the Federal Reserve System and to provide an alternative credit system for the peoples and governments of the world. Outside of their manipulative, controlled climate, we would not presume, it looks like pressure though, presume to overtly contravene the Minnesota State banking authorities, but rather use the State Bank of Boyd in its only corporate status as the service agent for the Q Paul Bank Corporation, Incorporated, which was itself authorized by legislation to act as a bank. To act as a bank. Everything about this stinks to high hell, doesn't it? And who do you think's doing it? Facts are facts. Destroy the world. Bukowski, facts are facts. Mr. Friedman. Think about the eugenics problem. What is it really getting rid of? Who is not to nurture? Wars. I'm only asking. Somebody there, give me some clarity. What was that? Kiramia, what's up, beloved? What's happening? What's happening? You already know, beloved. Hawa, you already got it. Oh, Mac, what's happening? What's happening? So let's go ahead and get the last one. And I know y'all were waiting on this one. You can see it's hot up in here, and I can start the AC on not too long ago. Heaven Bearers, The New Age of Deception by Janine Helen. This is an excellent read. And you know what it's about, the mud flood in Tartaria. And we're in the 4th chapter. Remember, she woke up. Malcolm, Freedy on, doing their thing. Popping champagne bottles and lifting skirts. Pulling down trousers. Getting at them harm parts. No, let me stop. Chapter 4. Let's go ahead and get into it. My hat's downstairs, y'all, so I'm going to have to rock like this. Let me get into character. I'm confused. Is Bonnie a robot or a machine? Or what is the barcode on her neck symbolizing? Remember, she has this thing on her neck. Cole sits up from his storytelling position and rubs his sweaty palms over his jeans. He has dark rings under his eyes, and it is obvious he hasn't been sleeping well. Hello. He remains silent for almost a minute, as if trying to organize his thoughts in order to better explain to Dr. Woot, we messing with my name, what the barcode means. He knows that if he uses the wrong word or the context is misunderstood, that the entire meaning and importance of everything could be lost in translation. Cole understands the urgency for the most part. However, to get others to see what is going on and what is still to come is a big challenge, more so with Dr. Woot. He is a natural skeptic, and he takes nothing at face value. He is intelligent, as is well suited to his career. But his lack of imagination and utter reliance on what he can physically see, hear, and touch hinders him. So he's one of those has to be tangible type individuals. Because it means he outright dismisses everything else which he doesn't understand or cannot interpret because it's not tangible. This is the problem with modern education. One is able to learn so much. I'm confused. Is Bonnie a robot or a machine? This is the problem with modern education. One is able to learn so much by doing so. One creates as inevitable to learn so much, but by doing so, one creates should have an apostrophe there, creates an invisible box that becomes the home of the mind. Now, the mind should never be locked in a box, and this is why your vision is restricted. And Dr. Wu doesn't reply to his comment this time. He knows all too well what it will lead to, and he doesn't want to waste his sessions on something that won't help with Cole's treatment. So he places his left index finger on his lips, something he does when he is deep in thought, and stares blankly at Cole. She's not mechanical anyway. She continues, slightly agitated. I already told you, and there is no artificial intelligence or AI not like that. I mean, there will be a morphing of the minds, and we will call it AI in the near future, but it's not artificial. His mind isn't sharp today, and his thoughts are muddled, despite his effort to organize them. Now, I'm not even sure it is really intelligent. He shakes his head to rid himself of the doubt and uncertainty, no longer speaking to Dr. Wu, but rather to himself, which is a very healthy thing. But no, he finally finishes his thought and directs his gaze back towards the doctor. We will call it AI, and it will become our new god, but it will also be the end of the human race. Think about it, like a phoenix rising from the ashes. In order to rise again and transform into this majestic bird, it must first die. Ergo why I told y'all about the eagle, that at 40 years old, the eagle, now tattered and hunting for most of his life, must find a dwelling high up over 12,000 feet in a cave or a hole somewhere in the mountains, where it must shed its plumage, pull out its talons, and peck off its beak that's already in shambles, and wait at least 2 months to regrow that. Because if it doesn't, it dies. But once those regrow, its feathers and plumage grow again, it is like it is brand new, rising from the ashes like a phoenix, transformed for another 35 to 40 years. Anyway, so it must therefore die, as you must. We will all die, and a new race of man will be born, but that will be the so-called AI. His eyes become a shade darker, mimicking the sun momentarily, hiding behind a big cloud. Make no mistake, he will embrace it, and for a while it will be good. But this won't last long, and by the time we realize what his true intention is, it will be too late. It is living, and it is cruel, he concludes, and rubs his sweaty hands once more over his jeans to rid them of their clamminess. His words are clear and precise. His posture reveals that he truly believes what he is saying. Mentally ill patients always talk about strange things and what is to come in the future. Remember that a lot of these things that popped up, they call asylums? Were holding the ancient ones from being able to tell stories during wartime, that were subjugated and buried underneath, and bones collected and stacked like rewards, like souvenirs, sources of energy. Mentally ill patients always talk about strange things and what is to come in the future. Most of these things are immediately dismissed and explained away as stories. However, there were cases that made Dr. Wu question whether or not there is some truth hidden inside some of them. He remembers reading about a doctor in the 1950s treating a diagnosed schizophrenic. He noticed a man standing outside, casually minding his own business, staring directly at the sun while swaying his head from side to side, like I do. When asked what he was looking at, the patient responded that he was looking at the sun, only to further elaborate that he was specifically looking at the sun's penis and its movement, the swaying from left to right, which is what caused the wind. Unsurprised by such an answer, the doctor didn't investigate it any further and brushed it off as nonsense, a weird figment of the imagination, something all of his patients shared. Then one day, this doctor stumbled upon information about a 2,000-year-old Persian tribe that had a similar explanation of a string dangling from the sun, which was responsible for causing the wind, at one time called the finger of God, or the phallus of Nimrod. the sun, Ra. Anyway, Dr. Wu isn't sure how to respond. Some days his answers are immediate, others not. Today is not one of these days. They both remain motionless where they are seated and remain silent for the next 5 minutes until their session is over. Sometimes quiet reflection is what they both needed, and he deems it an important aspect of their sessions. Cole doesn't believe that there is anything wrong with his mind, but feels compelled to share his experiences and stories. Sometimes he finds it difficult to express them in words, complaining that the English language hasn't evolved sufficiently and has now reached a point where the language itself isn't descriptive enough. Are y'all aware that the English language, if you pay attention to the brothers going back to the 20s, that this new English language has a lot of our vernaculars, even what do you call it, Ebonics, that have now seemed to become commonplace. Even I heard there was a class being given in colleges for credits at one time. I don't know if they're still going. I don't know. So Dr. Wu doesn't quite agree. While studying at Harvard University, he took English as an elective subject and was quite fascinated by the way the English language had progressed and changed from the 1600s until now, which would be the 6th century, where all of a sudden 1,000 years popped up out of nowhere. The old English words did feel rather foreign to him, but he enjoyed the mystery they entailed. He used the last few minutes remaining to think about questions he was wanted to ask Cole in their next session. So the next time I'm talking about culture, say the language you speak in full is mine, regardless of the people in Louisiana that still holds a diatribe of the ancient. They don't know that. They are reaching a pinnacle moment now, and he wants to use these perceived to be real experiences to his advantage. Attempt to use them in a more constructive, realistic way that would allow Cole to learn to cope on his own, as if it seems like the doctor's the one that's trying to cope. Cole's the one that seems like he might be all right. What say you? And it goes on. We'll pick up the rest tomorrow. The same narrative. It's quite extensive. And you know, I could sit here and just read, but I really want to get a nap. Anyway, I appreciate y'all. What was that, Janice Big? Let me see here. I want to make sure that I got the live chat wasn't up. Okay. So anyway, was that? Y'all enjoy that? I hope y'all enjoyed that. I hope it made sense. Because some people are like, he's reading like 5 or 6 books. Well, there's 2 more I could have read with it that go in line, even starting right now. But no, that'll be for another time because I really want to get to Flatlanders and I want to get into Jamil Shamsheed's book. You know what I'm saying? I think it's important. Appreciate that, Omek. So, with that being said, we're well over an hour, and I hope y'all enjoyed that reading and the little pre-workout tea that I gave you. I hope it's beneficial. Again, Kimio had a good live. It was pretty exceptional. If y'all haven't subscribed to his Patreon, go ahead. I'll set mine up. I just got to connect. Excuse me. I have to connect it to my what you call it, who I use for podcasts, you know, the thing I pay for every month. And it's not hard. I just haven't done it. And when I do that, then I'll probably go over there and start doing lives and uploading videos. I just removed another like 50 gigabytes worth of videos. I'm never looking at them, and I'm not going to share them again. I just went down there and but I had to change the pictures and put them in because there was pictures underneath all the videos and stuff that I've saved, whether from TikTok, Instagram, videos I've made over the past. The shooting videos I created another, but they're trying to do something on Facebook for those of us who are in the 2A community. That's very disturbing. You might want to look into that if you don't know. And maybe, Ganja, if you can look into that, and you might want to do a live or do a video on that. But as I say, the agendas are real. We don't have to participate in them. We're a nation. We just need to act like a nation. All of us. You know, not some goofy little tribe. I'm so tired of that. But we need to move as a nation. And there's a lot of us who are very intelligent. Okay? And we don't have to intellectualize their narrative. All right? If you want to say debunk, we can do that. But the problem is when you become a nation, you have to deal with people a certain way. Or you can change the narrative if you know exactly what you're doing. All right? Devin Amore, what's up? What's going on? What's going on? Like I said, you can still donate. It's $ James Indian Jim. One. If you want to give a couple dollars to the until I get everything where it's not a gold $sign, because I don't care when I'm talking things, but they've been doing it with videos that don't deserve it. So it shows me that they're a little emotional. They're bothered. And I like that. That means I'm renting space. But again, until I get them all green, okay? Now the followings and all new subscribers, I appreciate you guys. As I said, there are people doing great things. Go follow Delusions. If you haven't followed Cure Meal yet, follow him. Most of you all know about him. Drop 432. He's a good one to follow. And there's a few others out there. Research Guy's pretty good. Well, let's all hold it together. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody's going to mention everybody and do the things required or needed. And in the description, I have a lot of people who do things. I don't know. Tola Cherokee, she's working. So you can probably still hit a Gmail if you want to order, see if she still can order certain things, you know, certain herbs and stuff like that. And like I said, I appreciate you all. But we haven't gotten no donations all week. And I'm like, are y'all that broke? I ordered a few books. You know what? I'll come on later and I'll show you the books I ordered. Because let me see. That's not the ones that I paid, damn, the $666 that I turned around and had to pay back. And I'm getting them because I used some different book companies. And they said 18 days and all that kind of craziness. But let's pull this up so I can show you. It's moving so slow up here. They might be targeting me with some frequencies or so, whatever. You know they're retarded. They really bugging y'all. Hold on. Oh, they being nosy. Oh, you know what it is? These little foreigners who feel some kind of way, and it's probably the AI and the bots or whatever you want to call it. To which even that can break down. You better believe that. Now it loads. Anyway, let's go ahead and pull this up. Can't make this stuff up, guys. All right. Hey, James, you got me logged in. What the hell? All right. So. Oh, wow. So the propaganda will be here. It's another one on the Chazars. That arrives June 10th. I'm not mentioning that one. Yes. And then this one arrives arriving Friday. Dude! White Lies. I'm not going to say nothing else. There's plenty of White Lies, but this one right here, I paid. Oh, well, look at that there. It went down $1. I think I paid $24 for that one. What was the other one? I ain't going to tell you the other, there's $5. I ain't going to tell you that because you ain't help chip in for that one. And I didn't use, the money is still in the Cashapp. I'll show you. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, I got that one. There's two on propaganda. You have the Warbler Classic. I'm not going to mention that one. That'll be here April 19th. Wow. I have one downstairs is a different one. Holy smack. I mean, not April. June 19th, excuse me. Okay. And the other two will be around the same time. And the one, I'm not going to read the three. Like I said, you got those two. White Lies, that's all you're going to get from there. And then the Warbler Classic, that's another one. So the first part I already have, that'll be June 19th. Yeah. I ain't going to show you nothing. All right. And so like I said, I appreciate you all. And as you see, it's still there. I don't need it. You know, I got paid Malo. Some odd thousands of whatever the smoothie smoops, you know what I'm saying? So we'll take that, a few more donations, and we'll order a few more books. So I'm just going to order them from, I don't like buying nothing from Walmart or Amazon or nothing, but I'll order the books from there. They get here a little quicker than Abe Books and all those other companies and people, because I like to look for places, because I have a whole list of book companies now. I look for books that I just cannot find on Amazon and stuff like that. And those are the ones that take forever, especially if you're ordering them from overseas. So I do order a few books from overseas. All right. So appreciate y'all, ladies, still in the house. You didn't speak up except for Snoo. That's my boo-boo. And brothers, you already know, 2 on the 1. And I'll see y'all. I might come on later, or I'll see y'all tomorrow morning. Hopefully I get some sleep this evening. All right. As Kumi and most people say, I say it differently, but wow. It means the same thing. Light.